It's 6:33, and we are back from the last hearing, which was held on June 4th, 2026. When we last met, Ms. Wellheimer, who has party status, called as a witness Colleen Mealy, who also has party status. We got through Ms. Mealy's direct examination, and we did not do her cross-examination. I understand when we left that there was a question about whether or not Ms. Mealy would be able to be present this evening, and she is present. Okay. So, Ms. Mealy, if you can come back to the witness stand, please. We're a little different setup here this evening. You're not standing at the podium. You're sitting over here. We have a technical issue?
Well, I'd just like to, before we start, make everyone aware that when you're speaking, make sure you're speaking into a microphone. There's a couple at the podium. We have a handheld one back here if needed, because even if you think you're loud, we have quite a few people watching on Zoom, and if you're not speaking into the sound system, it's not going to be picked up.
Great, thank you. Ms. Mealy, you are still under oath. Mr. McHugh, please proceed with your cross-examination.
I don't have any questions of Ms. Mealy.
Okay. Ms. Mealy, what order were we going in last time? Other parties. Are there any other individuals who are present with party status who wish to cross-examine Ms. Mealy? Are there any other individuals present who have party status who wish to cross-examine Ms. Mealy? Seeing no hands, Mr. Heleniak, do you have any cross-examination for Ms. Mealy?
The township has no questions.
Ms. Mealy, you can step down and you are excused. Ms. Wellheimer, can you call your next witness? If you have a next witness.
I next call Dr. Scott Rifkin. The procedure we're going to have Dr. Rifkin sit
Yep.
in the
Yes, thank you.
witness stand.
Yes.
Sorry. And then if somebody's
Oh, she's fine.
I'm just trying not to trip as I come up here. I do.
Just state your full name, so.
Sure, Scott Rifkin, R-I-F-K-I-N.
Right. And if I could just may ask the hearing officer, with the last witnesses, I also called the last witness. We were using Weilheimer for the exhibits. Should I just continue with that with
Please
Weilheimer
do.
3 right now?
Yes, please
Okay.
do.
Thank you. So I'm going to mark Dr. Rifkin's CV as Weilheimer 3. This has been previously provided to counsel for the applicant and counsel for the township, but if I may approach and hand one to the hearing officer.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Rifkin, I've just handed you what's been marked for the record as Weilheimer 3. Is this a copy of your CV or just an overview of your background?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to go through with you your credentials that bring you here today. Where and in what did you get your undergraduate degree?
Sure, in biology at the University of Maryland.
Okay. And then my understanding is you went to medical school.
I did.
Where-
Surprisingly, they let me in.
Where did you go to medical school?
George Washington University in D.C.,
Okay. And in what discipline are you board certified?
internal medicine.
What does board certified in internal medicine, is that what most of us know as a general practitioner or primary care physician?
Well, as a primary care physician, there are general practitioners and there are also internal medicine docs. There's a little, the difference is a GP may only have 1 year of residency where an internal medicine doctor has 3.
Okay. And so your board certification is in internal medicine and you did a 3-year residency. to
That's
obtain
correct.
that. Okay. So could you provide an overview of your career since graduating from medical school?
Sure. I practiced medicine in the community I grew up in outside of Baltimore for 20-some years. During that period of time, I got offered to be the medical director of a nursing center near where I lived. I didn't have a whole lot of patients yet, and so I took the job. It was that or KFC shift commander, I think. And I didn't have patients yet. And so I took the job as the medical director and walked in, and it was a bit of a troubled facility. And we got it turned around, we fixed it. And the state of Maryland's health secretary decided I was the guy that knew how to turn around troubled nursing homes. So I did that for about 15 years for the state of Maryland, getting involved with facilities that were having care issues and then helping fix them for a number of years. I then went on to own a facility on the eastern shore of Maryland. I bought a facility, a nursing center, ended up being involved with a bunch of nursing centers, assisted livings, independent living facilities in Maryland and Pennsylvania. And at one point, the company that I created had 4,000 beds in 23 facilities, I think it was.
And that's in Maryland and Pennsylvania?
Maryland and Pennsylvania.
Hey, what were your responsibilities? Before I get to that, I have in my notes that you were a regional director for Sunrise Center.
I was, not now. I was.
Understood,
Yes,
but you
yeah.
were. And we have a Sunrise Center near here, and our understanding is that is independent living, assisted living, and memory care. Is that consistent with what it was when you were their regional director?
Yes.
Okay. And you also talked about your experience in the state of Maryland and the state of Pennsylvania with these senior care facilities. And when I say senior care facilities, I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking of, and you tell me if that's correct. I'm thinking independent living, assisted living, memory care, skilled nursing care, and then some other ancillary services. Am I thinking about the right terminology when we talk about that?
You are.
Okay. In a moment, I'm going to sort of narrow that focus to independent living, assisted living, and memory care, but for the purposes of your background, could you tell me what experience you gained with the operation and staffing of independent living, assisted living, and memory care facilities?
So we had all three of those in our portfolio. And at the end of the day, the decision-making, I was the CEO of the company, the decision-making for how we would run the buildings ended up on my doorstep. So I took it upon myself to understand each of those components of the care continuum and to understand what it took to take good care of patients.
When did you first start running these facilities, and when did you eventually sell your business?
Yeah, the first building, that's a great question, was, let's think about it a second, was around 98 or 99, in that range, 1990, yeah, 99, in that range.
And did there come a time where you sold this business?
Yeah, we sold them all about 2 weeks before the pandemic started. We were incredibly fortunate.
Fortunate timing.
Yeah.
Right. Since you sold the building, the pandemic was in 2020. Since you sold the facilities in 2020, what type of work have you been doing in these senior care, continuing care facilities?
Sure. I run two side businesses that we had started. One is a data mining business where we go into the medical records of nursing centers and we ask lots of questions, lots of clinical questions. And the idea is to prevent hospital admissions. So we might find out that Mrs. Jones hasn't had a bowel movement in 3 days, and she had surgery, and she's on narcotics. And because of that, the constipation occurs. If you treat that patient with $1 worth of stool softeners on Monday, on Wednesday, that patient doesn't get admitted septic to the ER and to the ICU at the hospital. So the idea is to prevent admissions, and we do that very successfully. There was just a study in the Journal of Managed Care on what we do, showing a 52% drop in admissions, which is great. So that's the one company. And the other company that I run is a value-based care company that works with government programs like ACO REACH and LEAD and iSNP programs to provide a Medicare substitute for patients. And then we staff it in a way that reduces admissions. So we bring data mining, we bring personnel, and the whole idea is to reduce admissions, and that savings is then shared with the operators.
So since personally owning and operating these facilities in 2019, 2020, and morphing into the industry you have now, have you stayed knowledgeable and aware of the operation procedures for continuing care facilities and the staffing needs of these facilities?
I have. And I remain on the board of the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association that represents nursing homes and assisted livings and personal care facilities.
So, sir, when you and I first spoke and when I went over your CV, I totaled the number of years that you've been involved with senior living facilities, and I'm talking about the entire continuum of care, of about 30 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm getting old. It's a problem.
And I think we're around the same age, so be kind there. Yeah. All right. Now, you talked about beginning your career, and throughout your career, you've been a primary care physician. From your experience, do you agree that primary care physicians provide the majority of care to senior citizens in the United States?
Yes, the majority of the medical care.
Medical care, I
Yes,
apologize.
yes.
Yes, medical care. And are you still board certified?
I am.
So do you also remain familiar with what the needs are of an aging population here in the United States?
I am.
Okay. Now, we started off talking about the continuum of care, and I just want to make sure we're defining those terms appropriately. And I started off talking about independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing care. It's my understanding, and I want you to correct me if I'm wrong, that in Pennsylvania there are also other factors on the continuum of care, being personal care, rehabilitation, and hospice. Am I missing anything when we talk about
No, I think you've
continuum of
covered
care?
all the major ones.
Now, for the purpose of your testimony today, I'm going to limit your testimony to independent living, assisted living, and memory care.
That's fine.
All right, and if I interchange the terms continuing care, senior care, will you understand that I'm talking about those three designations? Okay, and I just need you to say yes for the court reporter
Yes.
here. Okay, thank you. Okay. Based on
Too close? Okay.
Based on your training and experience, are you familiar with the services provided to residents in independent living, assisted living, and memory care?
I am.
Based upon your training and experience, are you familiar with the staffing needs to provide services on each of those levels of care?
I am.
Based upon your training and experience, are you also familiar with the best practices for operating these senior care facilities?
I am.
Now, since you testified regarding your background and experience in providing and owning and operating these facilities and the career that you've had since selling those facilities, are there federal regulations governing the operation of senior care facilities?
There are.
Are there state regulations governing the operation of senior care facilities?
There are.
Are you familiar with the federal regulations regarding
I am.
these facilities? Are you familiar with the Pennsylvania state regulations for operation of
I am.
senior care facilities?
Yep.
Okay. And just so we're kind to the court reporter, you have to, even though you might already know what your answer is going to be, I just need you to wait till I finish asking the question,
Sorry.
and I'll wait till you finish answering, because otherwise we torture the nice man here, and we don't want to do that.
Fair enough.
Okay. And your familiarity with the federal and state regulations, the staffing requirements, best practices of senior care facilities, including independent, assisted, and memory care facilities. Does that include independent, assisted, and memory care facilities?
It does.
I tender Dr. Rifkin as an expert in the operation and staffing needs of senior care facilities.
Mr. McHugh, do you have any questions for Dr. Rifkin on his qualifications?
I do. Dr. Rifkin, are you familiar with the development plans that are proposed for this particular site?
I'm familiar with the general number of beds for each type of facility, and I'm familiar with the property itself. I took a tour around the property.
Did you review the conditional use plans?
I'm not a zoning attorney.
Okay, so you didn't, did you look at the plans?
I have not looked at those plans now.
Okay, did you review the Abington Township zoning ordinance?
No, I'm not a zoning attorney.
Okay. Did you review any of the prior testimony, either from the applicant or from the other parties in this matter?
I briefly looked at testimony from one of the previous folks who testified about the number of employees needed for various things in the building.
Do you know who that was?
I don't recall that.
Okay. You indicated that you previously owned or operated senior living facilities in Pennsylvania, Maryland, I believe you said Delaware.
Yep.
4,000 beds, 23 facilities, is that correct?
That's correct.
About how many of those can you estimate were in Pennsylvania?
About half of them,
Half of them?
Yep.
So plus or minus?
11 or 12 of them.
11, 12,
Yep.
okay, 2,000 beds?
We had about 1,200 beds in the city of Philadelphia in 5 facilities. They were big facilities that we bought from New Cortland Presbyterian Charities at the time. And then there were several others scattered throughout the state.
Okay. And you indicated that your first ownership or operation role was in 1998?
Don't hold me to the exact date.
But in
it's
about
yeah,
then?
around then,
And then you sold the buildings or your interest in about 2020?
approximately. Yeah.
And you haven't had any other operational management roles in a senior living facility since that time?
That's correct.
Okay. And you're involved in 2 other businesses that, I guess, contract or interact with senior living facilities?
That's correct.
And that involvement goes on today?
Correct.
Okay. I have no further questions for Dr. Rifkin. I don't have an objection to his qualification. I do have an objection, I think, to the relevance of his testimony.
All we're addressing right now is the issue of whether or not he's going to be qualified as an expert.
Okay.
Let me see if there's anyone else present who has party status who would like to ask Dr. Rifkin any questions regarding whether or not he should be qualified as an expert. Seeing no hands, we will qualify Dr. Rifkin as an expert. He has specialized knowledge in an area that is relevant to the matter at hand, and there is no objection. Now, your objection is to relevance?
The relevance of his testimony, and that I think the standard before the hearing officer and the board is that he has to, or I believe his evidence, his testimony is being offered to show how this particular facility will have a greater impact than the average facility. And he's indicated he's briefly reviewed plans. He's providing factual testimony about the industry as a whole. That's not the relevant standard as to whether the industry operational aspects are. It's whether this particular facility will operate in a fashion that will have a greater impact than the standardized facility. I don't think he has any particularized knowledge of how this facility is going to operate to be able to testify in that regard.
I think it's quite clear from what was said by Ms. Wellheimer that her intent is to ask this witness questions about the general operation of these type of facilities. He's indicated that he is aware of the amount of beds and things along those lines. I'd be stunned if we're not hearing about staffing levels and things along those lines. And based on that, we're going to overrule your objection.
Okay, thank you.
And any other objections you want to make to, if you find individual questions are not relevant, but we
Understood.
find that its testimony is relevant.
And the tender was for expert in operation and staffing. Mr. Hearing Officer, not that I don't appreciate the acceptance of this witness as an expert, I didn't know if Mr. Heleniak had any questions because we jumped over him before you rendered that opinion.
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, just
But thank you
want
for
the
looking
record to be
out for
clear.
him.
Okay. All right. Dr. Rifkin, as I ask you questions specifically about the application that has been proposed and about the operation and staffing of the proposed facility, can you just confirm that all of the testimony you'll provide today will be to a reasonable degree of professional certainty?
Yes.
Okay. So I first want to identify what has been proposed, and I want to start with, so it is 2 separate buildings at 1209, the address is 1209 Rydal Road, you don't need to remember that, but 2 separate buildings, one with 46 independent living units, 37 which include studios and 1-bedroom units, and 9 2-bedroom units. So before I move to the next building, if you have 46 units that are studios and 1-bedroom, is it correct to presume that there'll be 1 person in each of those?
There'll be one in the single units,
Right.
Yes.
And then when we move to 9 two-bedroom units, how many people are typically in the two-bedroom units?
Probably two, but sometimes people want a two-bedroom.
Okay. So if we,
Sometimes an individual might want a two-bedroom, but generally there'll be two people. It's typically a married couple that's going to move in.
so we're going to have the number of beds for independent living would be somewhere between 55 and 64.
That's
Would that be
correct.
correct?
Yep.
Okay. There would be a separate building, an unconnected separate building with 71 assisted living beds. That's made up of 20 studios, 43 one-bedrooms, and 4 two-bedroom units. And likewise, for the two-bedroom units in an assisted living facility, is that the same assessment? Mostly they will have 2 people, but sometimes 1?
Generally, that's the case.
Okay. So,
You certainly have to assume you're going to have those 4 extra patients.
okay. So we're talking about for assisted living anywhere between 69 and 72 beds. And then 7 memory care units with 11 memory care beds. We can presume that's just 11 beds.
Yep.
Okay. All right. These buildings will not be connected to each other, but they will be on the same campus within walking distance to each other. So I ask you just to keep the number of beds in mind. If you need me to repeat any of that for you at any time when I ask you questions, I am happy to. So is a building which has independent living, assisted living, and memory care, as the one I just described, a facility that is operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Absolutely.
Right? Are there staffing needs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Yes.
In your experience, how many shifts are typical for a senior care facility?
Normally 3 shifts.
And what is typical for the hours of each shift?
Most buildings run with a 7 to 3 in the morning, and then 3 to 11 at night, and then 11 to 7 overnight.
Which shift has the greatest number of employees?
It's going to be that 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. shift.
Okay, fair to call that the day shift?
Yes.
So when I ask you about staffing, I'm going to be focusing on the day shift staffing.
Okay.
Clearly causing some feedback. Okay. Now, let's start with the independent living facility. Who typically lives in an independent living facility?
Sure. It's folks 70-ish plus to 85, even older occasionally. They're folks who've been living at home. They've decided that they don't want to take care of a house anymore. They don't want to mow the lawn. They don't want to do maintenance. They may have lost a spouse, and they're worried about the security of being there by themselves. And mostly they're looking for a setting they can live in, without having to go to a nursing home, without having to go to assisted living. Independent living is a first step, trying to avoid the other types of living arrangements they could have.
So what types of services are typically provided in an independent living facility?
So you have to think about what the needs of these folks are. They're generally going to want security. They're going to want to know somebody's at the front desk. And a lot of facilities train that front desk person for security, but also for emergencies. They may be trained as a paramedic. The folks at Erickson Retirement Communities, one of the big communities around the country that do these things, they train all their front desk people as paramedics, okay? And when they come to see the facility, they're going to want to know their security in that building. So that's the first thing. Second thing is they're going to want to know that there's somebody to do maintenance. They don't want to fix the faucet in their apartment. They don't want to fix the toilet that's leaking. They don't want to do those sorts of things anymore. And they're going to want somebody to do maintenance. At least half of the folks are going to want housekeeping. At least half are going to want housekeeping.
And when you say housekeeping, what do you mean by that?
Make the beds, vacuum the floors, clean the kitchen, those sorts of things. Again, they're trying to figure out how can I get services that keep me from being in assisted living, that keep me from being in a nursing home. And so they're looking for those kind of services. And some of them are on the far edge of close to needing those other levels, and some are not as needing as much services. So they're going to want that. They're going to want to see that there's some place that they can have a communal meal, if that's possible. They can cook in their apartments typically. They can make breakfast. They can go down for lunch. They could go, if they're going to compete in the marketplace of these kind of buildings, they're going to want that sort of a situation.
So when you talk about housekeeping, what about laundry? Even if there are in-unit laundry machines, is that typical that people in independent living are doing their own laundry consistently?
Some are and some aren't. About half of them aren't going to be. And typically it's the son or daughter, it's often the daughters, that want to make those arrangements because they're going to either take it home to do it or they're going to get somebody there to do it for them.
What about activities? What is the general practice for an independent living facility regarding provided programming and activities?
There's going to be some activities. There's going to be the Mahjong Club. There's going to be the book club. There's going to be some ability to organize and go on trips, places, and do things.
So best practices, is there someone that organizes it for organizes that for the residents?
If you want your facility to compete in the marketplace, you're going to have somebody. There's plenty of opportunities of where people can go.
So let's just go quantify the numbers of what you've just talked about. So when we're talking about best practice to be marketable and compete in the continuing care community, you mentioned receptionist, security. Is that one person or two different people?
It can be one person.
Okay. And that's the person that you said is often trained as a paramedic.
That's right.
Okay. And then you talked about housekeeping. In a 64-bed independent living facility, you said about half would have housekeeping?
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we, if we could quantify that?
2 to 3 folks.
Okay. And same
And they're
thing.
going to pay for that service. They're probably going to buy it from a menu of services.
Okay. And how about laundry? You said about half of the residents would choose to participate in the add-on of laundry. And when we're talking about laundry services, how many people in independent living are we anticipate providing those laundry services?
2.
Okay. And is that different from the maintenance people? I'm sorry, the housekeeping people?
Yes, those are different people.
Okay. And one of the things you mentioned is when people come into independent living, they want someone to take care of the maintenance. What does that mean when you move into independent living? What's the maintenance that we want you to have taken care of?
It's the stuff we all do in our homes. Fix the faucet. There's a drip coming from the ceiling. There's, any of, the toilets clogged up. I mean, they're going to want some help with that.
Okay. And for a 64-bed building, how many maintenance people are typical?
2 to 3. At least 2, maybe 3.
Okay. Let's go low estimate at 2. That's
Yep.
fine. Dining services. Is it typical that there's a restaurant or dining services in the independent living facility?
Yeah. So here's the psychology you got to think about. If the person has to walk over to the assisted living, they see what they fear. They see being in the assisted living in a wheelchair with a walker, having that level of many of those folks have dementia over there. They don't. If you go to market a building where they're having lunch or dinner with the assisted living patients, nobody's going to buy rent the apartment. Nobody's going to take that apartment because you're asking them to confront their fears every single day. When you take them on the tour and they see those patients, they're going to shy away from the building.
So if you're having a standalone dining facility in independent living, what staffing do you need for that?
You got 2 kinds of staff. You need people to cook. You need people to serve. So you probably have 2 or 3 on the cooking side, and you have 2 or 3 on the serving side.
Okay.
And lunch will be the big meal, not dinner. It'll be the day shift meal.
Right, and I'm only talking about the day shift.
Yeah.
Okay. How about again, at the independent living facility, are there any personal care options provided? A beauty salon, a manicurist, anything like that? What is the standard practice for marketability?
Sure. So folks who are going into independent living, they're dealing with a loss of independence. They're leaving their own home. They're moving into a facility. They're dealing with that. The beauty salon is a huge marketing point. Even nursing homes, where half the patients or more have dementia issues, a beauty salon is a huge selling point. And in independent living, it is as well. So you always want to have one. You typically have a beautician who comes in 3 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever number of appointments they get. And they'll come in as sort of an independent contractor into the building. But they have to be there, and you have to set up a small room as a salon.
Okay. And when we talk about this personal care providing, whether it be a hairdresser, manicurist, what's typical on a day shift? How many people?
1 or 2.
In independent living, is it standard for some people to bring in personal aides?
Yeah, it is. The families, a lot of times, would rather have mom or dad in independent living with an aide than in the assisted living. It's their own apartment, it's their own, it's a better transition to convince mom or dad to do, even if maybe they really should be in assisted living. So a lot of these folks, a third or more of them are gonna have an aide of some sort. And that aide may not be 24 hours, maybe. Sometimes an aide is 20. My father, when he was in his mid-90s, he'd gotten confused. We had to have around the clock people to help him. This was in his home. We did this. But in assisted living, in independent living, a good number of those folks are going to have aides of some sort.
Okay, and you said about a third. Is it typical that someone, when we're just talking about quantifying numbers for the day shift, is it typical that if someone has an aide, the person would be there during the day shift?
Yes, at least on the day shift, because then you're going to take care of the bath, you're going to take care of the basics.
Okay. So I believe I highlighted this for you before you came to testify today, but the applicant had an individual by the name of Mr. Elmore testify, and Mr. Elmore, regarding the running of this facility, referencing page 66 of the transcript, proposes there will be no dedicated staffing at all in the independent living facility, and the staff from the assisted living facility would come to the independent living facility as needed. Is this consistent with best practices for operations and marketability of an independent living facility?
It's not at all. The question was asked earlier which testimony I had reviewed. This was the testimony. I just didn't remember the gentleman's name at the time. It struck me as ludicrous. First of all, you wouldn't have anybody that would rent an apartment if you did it that way. If this is an apartment building, yeah, it sounds like an apartment building. If you want it to be an independent living building where there are some services to keep people out of assisted living, you've got to have that kind of, you've got to have folks that do that. Otherwise, families really aren't going to move mom or dad into that facility.
With the same testimony, the applicant provided testimony that there will be no programming provided by in the independent living building. So that's
Doesn't seem very marketable to me.
okay.
Part
Yeah.
of what excites people when they come on a tour and the family comes with them, and part of what excites them to feel comfortable about mom being there is that the isolation of living by themselves is going to be resolved. Mom's going to be in this building with X number of other folks, and they have things in common, and they can have lunch together, and they can play mahjong together, they can do things together. And that's a big part of selling these facilities.
The applicant provided testimony that the independent living residents would have an emergency call button, and the button would be serviced by the staff in the assisted living building, that there will be no receptionist or security officer in the building. Any concerns about that?
I think there's a safety issue of people leaving the assisted living where they've got much more compromised patients and leaving and going over to the independent living. It seems an odd way of doing it.
And what about the marketability of an independent living facility that does not have anyone in the building on staff?
Again, you're looking for security. You don't like that mom or dad has been living by themselves. That you want to know that in an emergency, somebody responds quickly.
The applicant proposes that that independent living residents will not have their own dining facility, and they would instead go to the assisted living dining facility if they wanted dining services.
It's the same fear issue. If I'm on that tour, if an 85, 90-year-old person is on that tour, and they see that I have to go eat in the assisted living, where most folks are confused, most folks have walkers and whatever else, I don't want to do that. It's confronting my fears. And I think it's a huge marketing mistake.
So the applicant's witness stated multiple times there would be zero staff members in the independent living facility. How does this differ from a standalone apartment building then?
It doesn't.
Just to summarize, as we're talking about the independent living facility, the staffing that you described, that is the standard practice for marketability and best practices for operation, I just want to go through them, make sure I'm not missing anyone. Dining services, which includes 2 cooks and 3 servers, a joint receptionist security person who also may or may not be a trained paramedic, that's 1 person.
I mean, that's the way I would do it. I would have that person do both jobs.
Okay. Could be 2 people, but only 1 is
Right.
needed.
And there are facilities that use 2 people.
Programming director, 2 to 3 housekeeping people on the day shift, 2 to 3 laundry, people providing laundry services on the day shift, 1 maintenance provider, and someone providing personal care, hairdresser, manicurist, 1 person per day.
Yep.
Anything else I'm missing regarding what would be the expected services provided at independent living?
Those are the services.
Oh, and did I say programming director? I did not, programming director.
Yep, those would be the services, but there are other people you need as well outside of the services.
Okay, tell me about those, and I may stop you depending upon where you're going, but tell me what you're thinking of when you're talking about other services.
No, I was talking about folks who are going to oversee the building and sell the units.
Okay.
You need a marketing team as well.
Couldn't the marketing person be the same person between both buildings?
Be awful hard to do. Yes, but you got to have an office for them in each building, so it's tough. And if you're going to be busy and have a lot of turnover, as you do in these buildings, you're going to need more than just 1 staff. You're going to need somebody who's focused on independent living, and you're going to need a couple of people focused on the assisted living side.
Okay, so for independent living, we're talking about 1 person?
Right. And you don't want the potential resident to visit the other side. You only want them to come to the independent living,
Why is that?
because they don't want to see it. This is what we've talked about a couple of times. It just makes them uncomfortable. They want to go somewhere where they don't have to see where they may end up being eventually.
So now let's move to assisted living. What is assisted living? Describe what the services are that people have and why they move to assisted living.
Sure. It's a higher level of care. Yeah, these are people that absolutely need services. They almost all need services. Many of them have dementia. At least half of them are going to have, or more are going to have dementia. They are going to need help bathing. They're going to need help dressing. They're going to need help eating and getting their food arranged and sometimes being fed. They're often very similar to nursing home patients, with the exception is they may not have a specific medical problem that takes a lot of RN time, like wound dressings, for example.
So when you look at the Pennsylvania and federal regulations for staffing of an assisted living facility, is there a minimum required?
There's a minimum. It's not what I would ever run to run a good facility, but there's a minimum.
And I want to talk about the distinction between both. I want to talk about the minimum requirements, and I also want to talk about best practices for running these facilities in operations. Did you prepare some material which details the minimum staffing based on the regulations?
I did. I sort of figured I shouldn't do off the cuff math sitting here in this room. So I did a little math on the
Before you
various
do that, I
jobs.
should give everyone a copy of what you provided. I'm going to mark this as Weilheimer 4. I have one for you, Mr. Gallinia. Let me just make sure I have my other copy that I wrote up. Mr. Gallinia, if you have no objection, can I ask that you and Mr. Clark look on, and then I will hand you mine as soon as I finish following along?
That's fine, I can get the couch to take a copy after the meeting.
Okay, I apologize. I thought I had one extra copy, and I do not.
But this is W4.
This is, yes, W4. And I'm just going to double check because I thought I had one extra copy, but I might not. No, I apologize, but we will get that to you as soon as we take a break. I'll get a copy for you. Okay. So let's start with the staffing needs as required by the regulations. When we look at, and I'm talking about assisted living, direct care for residents, what does that mean?
It's the people who actually work with the resident that dress them, feed them, bathe them, do all those sorts of hands-on care. It's not administrative, it's not marketing, it's hands-on care.
Okay. And for 71 to 75 beds and 68 units in assisted living, if no one has any mobility issues, what are the direct care requirements?
Sure. With no mobility issues, and that's
And on the day shift?
on the day shift. Well, let's start with the total hours required.
Okay.
It's an hour per patient per day of hands-on caregiver care. And if they have mobility issues, it's 2 hours a day. And then you've got to figure out how to distribute them between the shifts, because most of the work's going to get done on the day shift. The baths are all going to get done on the day shift. At least 2 of the meals are going to happen on the day shift. Any activities and transportation within the facility is going to happen on the day shift.
Right. So did you, when you came up with your chart, and I'm looking at page 2 of W4,
Yep.
did you combine under assisted living mobility, and people with mobility issues and people without
I
mobility
did,
issues?
and I made the assumption, and I think it's actually a very conservative assumption, that half of the folks will have mobility issues. It's often higher than that. The number of folks with walkers in an assisted living is at least 50%, and often even higher than that.
So when we're looking at just direct care providers with that hands-on helping people with their activities of daily living,
Yep.
how many, only based on the regulations, not best practice, would be needed during the day shift?
You would need at least 6 folks in the assisted living, and that's not including the memory care.
Right, we'll get to memory
Yep.
care separately.
Yep.
Hey, people in assisted living, are they primarily getting their medical needs addressed at the assisted living facility?
Most of them are. It's hard to get those folks out of the building to the doctor's office and back, because either the family member has to go with them or a staff member has to go with them. And that's a huge problem. So you try to arrange, when I was the medical director for Sunrise, I would go into the building and they had an office set up in the building. And I would see patients in the building for them.
Okay. So for direct medical care, do you need an RN?
For direct, you need an RN.
Well, what do the regulations say
Yes,
regarding
okay,
an
so
RN?
let me talk about that. You have to have an LPN.
That's a
okay?
licensed practical nurse?
Right, correct. And you have to have an RN available, and the RN, not for direct care, you need the RN for other assessment work that they're going to do.
Okay. And for this size facility, on the day shift, how many LPNs do you need?
You need one.
Okay. And how about an RN?
You need one most days.
There's been testimony there is going to be dining services available at the assisted living facility. So what is needed to provide dining services to the number of residents, 71 to 75 residents in the assisted living facility?
Yeah, you're cooking for a lot of folks. You need a dietary manager, you need 2 cooks, and you need a couple dietary aides that prepare the platters, prepare the make sure that people get the meal they're supposed to get. If somebody's on a low-salt diet, they've got to get a low-salt diet.
Okay. Can I presume, since you've described the mobility issues, that people aren't going up to a buffet and getting their own food?
Generally not.
Okay. So does this computation for dietary services also include wait staff?
No.
Is there any regulation for wait staff?
Well, somebody has to get them the food.
Understood, but I'm
The
just talking
regulation
about...
is they have to get their meal presented to them.
Right.
Yes.
You prepared this chart based on the regulation requirements, but separate and apart from the regulation requirements, in order for people to get their food, is it an individual or individuals in addition to the ones listed under dietary services that would be serving the meals?
Yes, there'd be 2 to 3 of those folks.
Okay. And that's the day shift.
Yep.
What about if people are unable or uninterested in leaving their room and need meals provided to them in their rooms? Who does that?
Again, these servers and these dietary aides would take the meals to the rooms.
Okay, so we don't need extra people for that.
No, I think that's already included.
In an assisted living facility, is housekeeping provided?
Correct, yes, has to be.
Okay, what does that mean in an assisted living facility?
Many of these folks are incontinent. Many of them are incontinent. So you're dealing with soiled beds, you're dealing with soiled carpets, you're dealing with, you know, the basics of cleaning the rooms every day. It's again, 3, 4, 5 people in a building.
So for 71 to 75 beds in an assisted living facility, what would be required on the day shift to address housekeeping? Just housekeeping, let's
We
start
would
with
have
that.
at least 3 people.
Okay. Is that best practice or just what's?
No, that's the minimum.
Okay.
That's the minimum. Yep,
Are laundry services provided to people in assisted living?
they have to be because they don't have their own laundry facilities, A, and B, most of them couldn't do it anyway.
Is laundry services provided daily for these individuals?
Well, maybe not daily, but they certainly have laundry services a couple times a week.
Okay. And on the day shift, how many people are needed to provide laundry services?
You'd have 1 to 2 people.
Okay. And when you have one here?
Hard to have 1 because if somebody takes a vacation, then you have a problem. So you really have to have 2.
Okay. And you put 1 on your list here, that's being conservative?
Yes.
And we're talking about only for assisted living, correct?
Yep.
Before we get into the administration and clinical leadership that we have on your list here, I want to go back to the services that are provided for people in assisted living. What actually, I mean, you've talked about people, helping people with their activities of daily living. We've talked about dining services, housekeeping, laundry. Is it fair to presume that people who are in assisted living are not just getting up and going out for their own activities?
Yeah, you'd have an activities director, you'd probably have an activities director assistant.
Okay. And what type of activities are provided?
It can be simple games that they play, it can be bingo, it can be, you know, it can be, you got to gear it to the individuals. You've got some very alert, very cogent folks, and then you've got another group that has pretty severe dementia. And so it really depends on who the individuals are. If you have some folks that can play cards or mahjong or whatever, you set that up for them.
Okay. So 1 activities director, 1 assistant, anyone else who provides activities services?
That's pretty much it.
Okay. Now, there was testimony from the applicant's witness, and I just want to read it correctly, that it is the same people who are providing direct care, the activities of daily living care to the residents that will be assisting with the activities of daily living, therapeutic needs, serving meals in the dining room, addressing housekeeping, and assisting with activities. And that's on page 115 to 118 from Mr. Elmore. And specifically, he said, I don't need any other staff to take care of the residents. Is that accurate?
It's not only is it not accurate, your staff would all quit on you. I mean, the staff would all quit. I mean, the person whose job is to make sure that everybody's you know, personal care is done that day is not going to be the same person who's doing activities. It just doesn't work that way.
Now, there's been testimony there's going to be a van providing transportation for both independent living and assisted living. Is it typical that those communities will travel together?
They might travel together, but it's not good marketing. It's going to be awful hard. It's not something that somebody would necessarily see on a marketing tour, but typically you're going to have different vans. And keep in mind that where the assisted living people go is going to be very different than where the independent living people go.
Give me an example.
Okay? So somebody in assisted living is likely to go to a doctor's appointment. They're likely to go, if they're going to go out for it. They're going to go to the hospital if they have some tests they have to have done. The folks in independent living, they want to go to the shopping mall. If, you know, they want to go to the grocery store to put stuff in their own cabinets in their own unit. So it's a very different, you know, group of destinations between the two. Well-run, the well-run facilities are going to have different people.
So let's presume, for the purpose of argument for this application, that they're going to have 1 van and 1 driver during the day shift.
Yeah.
If someone from assisted living needs to go to an appointment to get blood drawn and something that is not being provided on site.
And not scheduled until the last moment.
Might not,
Right.
wasn't even thinking about that. But is that something you can just generally put an assisted living resident on the bus and have them take care of that
Now,
themselves?
they're going to have to go with somebody.
Okay, so where would that person come from?
It would be one of the personal care aides typically.
So the direct care people?
Yep,
And if that person is being pulled out, someone else
that's correct.
fills their needs? Okay. All right. Now, before I talk about overlaps between staffing in the different facilities that are just general to the community at large, I want to ask you about memory care, because the proposal here is that in one building, as we described, is the standalone independent living apartment building, and the other one is assisted living and memory care with 11 beds in memory care. What are the services that are provided in memory care?
These are typically folks who have much more severe dementia. They're at the end stages of whatever their cause of dementia is. They may wander. They're typically units that are locked. People aren't locked in. I'm going to be careful how I say it. But they're units that require somebody to open the door and close the door so that people don't wander out into the streets, and it happens, unfortunately. They need much more hands-on care. They need much more help with basic daily living activities, and you staff those units much higher.
Are those units staffed with the same people that are helping out in assisted living or separate people?
No, it's going to be dedicated people.
Okay.
You got to know your patients, and if you're going to have them just wander wherever, it doesn't work very well, and it's not safe for the patients.
So for the memory care unit as proposed by the applicant, how many direct care providers are needed on the day shift?
Well, at least 3 for that number of patients.
Okay. Is there a separate LPN on the memory care side?
Is there a separate, no.
Okay. The RN that comes into the building that you said is almost every day.
Yeah.
Is that the same RN for both?
It's the same RN, yeah. That's the same RN.
How about dietary services? Do the memory care people go to the dining room with the assisted living individuals, or are they separate?
Probably not. The meals probably get brought to the unit.
Okay. And so do you need any additional staff members for
No, I
dietary
included
services?
that in the calculations. That's all in there.
How about activities? Are they being provided separate activities in memory care versus assisted living?
No, again, I think it's the same number of folks that we had.
Housekeeping and laundry, are there any increased staff members needed?
You need more people for that group than any other group that you're going to take care of, but we've included it in that 2 or 3 people that we already said.
When we talk about housekeeping and laundry, is that just talking about caring for the individual apartments or units, or is that also for the whole building housekeeping?
It's the whole building,
Okay, so it covers everything.
yes. There's common space, there's all kinds of stuff that has to be taken care of.
And we talk-
And maintenance to that effect as
Well, I
well.
want to ask you about maintenance. We talked about maintenance in the independent living
Right.
facility. In the assisted living facility, is there maintenance that's needed for a combination of assisted living and memory care?
There is. You're going to need, again, you're going to need 2 or 3 people.
Okay, separate from the ones that are in the independent living?
Correct.
Okay. Why is that? Why can't they just go between the buildings?
Things break. I mean, you need that total number for the whole complex.
Now, for the people that are
And
living,
one other thing I want to mention, these
Please.
people also do the upkeep maintenance. They're always painting when they're not fixing other things. All this work has to get done on a regular basis.
so the applicant's witness, Mr. Elmore, testified that the assisted living residents and the memory care residents would not receive medical treatment or therapy on-site and then would go off-site for all of these needs. It's on page 118 and 119. Is that the standard practice for assisted living and memory care residents?
No. Again,
not?
every facility I've ever been involved with had a doctor's office in the building where the physicians could come in and see. Now, there were patients that went out, but there were also a lot of patients that couldn't go out. They didn't have family member, they didn't have transportation. You'd have to send somebody with them. The reason Sunrise hired me is that I would come in the building and see the patients.
So in addition to having a primary care physician come see the patients at a building, do some of these residents need speech therapy?
Some need speech therapy, some need occupational therapy, some need podiatry,
How about physical therapy?
physical therapy. Typically, you have a vendor that you work with that sends those people into the building.
And do they typically come in on the day shift?
Yes, they're always on the day shift.
For personal care services that we talked about for assisted living, the hairdresser, the manicurist, can the memory care residents utilize those?
Could they? Yes. It's not a good way to do it because, again, it's part of what you're trying to do is to create this separation between the two groups. The independent living people do not want to come into the assisted living.
No, I might have misstated. So when I was talking about the overlap, in the building where we have memory care and assisted living,
Okay.
could memory care residents
Yes.
utilize
Sure.
the beauty parlor?
Sure.
Okay. Does that increase at all the staffing needs?
No, because most of them won't use that particularly.
All right. So in addition to the staff members that we've talked about that are really providing a lot of direct care in a variety of ways to the residents in each of the buildings, you also described in your chart, and I want to go through them, the other staff members that either may overlap between the buildings but are still necessary for these buildings to function. So could you tell me what else is needed in order for a continuing care facility to operate, and continuing care facility within the parameters of independent living through memory care? That's it.
Now, you're going to have salespeople.
Okay.
People have to give tours, people have to work with families, they have to make arrangements to move the patients in. They have to deal with patients at the end of life that families have issues that they got to deal with. You've got to have that sort of a team. You also have to have a management team for the building that oversees care, that hires and fires, that make the corporate decisions.
So let's go through what you have on your list. And I'm talking, and are the numbers you put together the day shift staffing numbers that are needed?
They are. That chart is really just for the, where I've got business office, that's just for the assisted living. It's not for the independent living.
Okay. Well, let's just go through, and I'm going to give you a title of a position, and you let me know what staffing is needed, and if it is, how many people, if it can be one person for the whole facility, or if we
Yep.
need different people. So administrator, executive director, I'm using those terms interchangeably.
That's one person for the whole complex.
Okay. Do you need an assistant or an operations director?
You do.
Okay. Is that a full-time person, part-time
That's
person?
a full-time person.
And is that one person for the entire complex or separate for each building?
It depends. I would have done one on each, but you might be able to get away with one.
Okay. Director of nursing,
Yep.
is that something you need?
You need somebody who's head of clinical services.
Okay. And is that different than the RN that stops by almost every day?
That's a different person.
Okay. Business office manager, what's that person's responsibility?
Billing, collections, dealing with families on those kind of issues.
Okay. And is that
Yes.
one person for the whole complex or different people?
That's
Different
probably
people?
one person for the whole complex.
Okay. Is the maintenance director different than the people that are providing maintenance, the on-the-ground cleanup and repair
That's
services?
the person who's overseeing both maintenance crews.
Okay. And that's someone who you didn't already have in your calculations?
That's correct.
And is that one person for the whole complex?
Yep.
Okay. I have a maintenance tech. Is that someone different, or is that what you've already talked
We've
about?
already covered that,
Okay.
yeah.
We've addressed the driver who's going to drive the van. For day shift, one person sufficient?
You really ought to have two vans, but you might be able to get away with one.
Okay. And in a building this size, what would your expectation be for people bringing in, what percentage of people would bring in individual aides during the day shift?
On the assisted living side, the independent living, where?
I'll let you
Okay.
differentiate as you think is appropriate with your expertise.
I mean, easily half the people in independent living would have an aide at least one shift a day. Okay? Conservatively say a third. I mean, you know, but it's up there. It's not an unusual thing. In the assisted living, that's less likely to have independent aides, because what you're paying for there is that kind of hands-on help already.
So the applicant provided testimony that on the day shift, the maximum number of individuals that will be staffed at the entire complex will be 19 staff members. Based on your experience, training, the standard practice for operating a continuing care facility, the Pennsylvania Code, is that staffing sufficient?
No, it would be unsafe, it would be unmarketable, it's bizarre.
So going with the numbers that you've created as a conservative estimate for best practices for staffing of a continuing care facility, such as the one proposed here, what are the numbers?
You might want to add them up as we just did them, because I didn't do that in my head.
Okay, so I was
in the
making
mid-
sure, but I'll go
Yeah,
back and
it's in the
count them.
mid-30s to upper 30s. but-
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, sir, this facility is being proposed on speculation. We don't have an identified owner-operator of the facility. Based on your training and experience, is there any reliability when building a facility if you don't have an identified owner or operator for staffing?
Well, I'd want to ask the operator, how are you going to do this? How are you going to care for all these patients in a safe way with the number of staff you're proposing? That's the first question. Second question is, okay, I can't imagine the answer to that question, but the second question is, how are you going to market it to people? If I'm bringing my mother in, or I'm bringing my father, my mother now is 95 years old, still lives on her own, tough as nails, and I tried to convince her to go to a facility, some sort of a community for years, and she won't do it. But if I'm bringing my mother and dad in here, and I see a front desk that's not staffed, or I see the lack of activities, or I see any of this other lack of staffing, why would I put mom and dad there when there are 50 other places I could take her?
Sir, I took you, before you came today, I took you to the location of the proposed facility, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and that was your first time seeing it,
Yeah.
right? And I drive you around the entire facility so you saw the homes and the proximity to what is being proposed?
Yep.
Okay. Sir, if this is and I haven't shown you a picture of it, although I'm sure one of my neighbors will have one of those, but it is a 4-story facility that is proposed on the location that I showed you. And you already testified this facility will be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What, if any, noise impact will there be that is different than what exists in a residential community from this proposed facility?
So, look, you're going to have ambulances going in and out all the time. People get sick at 2 in the morning. People get sick at 5 a.m. You're going to have family members who want to be with mom or dad when they're sick. They may want to end their lives in that facility. People choose to do that. You're going to have people going in and out. You're going to have staff going in and out all day and all night. So there's a reason these facilities get built on main roads. We see it all the time. Assisted livings and independent livings get built on main roads for this exact reason. It's just easier to get in and out of. It's easier to deal with them. It's easier for staff to get there.
Is there more ambulance activity at an assisted living, at one of these continuing care communities than there typically is in a residential community?
Oh, sure. You've got more sick, frail people in a lower density, in higher density than you would have in a residential community.
I'm going to show you in the application, I think this was out, I don't remember the number of the applicant, but Mr. McKee did help me of the diagram that was in my application.
The renderings?
Yes. So I'm going to show you what's already in that, it says A4. This is a rendering of the proposed facility on the
Sure.
that I showed you. Now that you're seeing it, considering that being operational 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, what, if any, impact will the lighting from that facility have in the residential community that surrounds it?
The lights are on in these facilities 24 hours a day. I mean, an individual room light might go off, but the main lights are on, the parking lot lights are on, the building lights are on. They're going to be on.
Now, as someone who likes to order from Amazon, I will admit, we probably have Amazon come to my house often, but different than what a normal resident orders to be delivered from their home, are there increased deliveries and trucks that come to this type of facility compared to a regular residential
Sure, you're going to have food deliveries, you're going to have medical supply deliveries, you're going to have medication deliveries, you're going to have all kinds of vendors coming and going.
In your training and experience from operating these types of facilities and your work with these types of facilities over the past 30 years, would the proposal, as given to you on A4 for from seeing the community, from hearing about the size of the facility proposed, will this have an adverse impact on the current residential community? May I be heard? Sure, yes. It's only within, it's not affecting zoning, it's within his experience of operating these facilities and how that affects the neighbors.
He's here as an expert on the issue of running these facilities, not on the impact that it will have on the surrounding community. He hasn't been qualified in that regard.
Sure. Sir, when you have owned and operated these facilities over the past 30 years, have you ever run a facility in an area such as this one?
No.
What type of areas have you chosen to build or operate or have facilities in which you operate?
We wouldn't have bought or built one inside a residential community. We just wouldn't have done it. It's so much easier to deal with a building that's up on a main road, is up on a 2 or 4, somewhere that bus traffic can go through. Staff find it easier, everybody finds it easier.
I could have
And you
one,
don't have to deal with the community complaints, which is always a problem.
I could have one moment. Okay. Finally, Dr. Rifkin, considering your training, extensive experience, to a reasonable degree of professional certainty, does the applicant's proposal of 19 staff members total during the day shift comport with the regulations and standard practice of this type of facility?
It seems bizarre to me. It just doesn't make any sense.
And the numbers that you provided as part of your testimony today, is that consistent, are those numbers consistent with your training, your experience, your review of the Pennsylvania regulations, and the best practices for running a marketable continuing care facility in Pennsylvania?
Yes, but they were the minimum numbers.
Okay, understood. Thank you, sir. Mr. McHugh may have some questions for you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Dr. Rifkin, I just want to go through and make sure we're talking about the same numbers. Can you just refresh my recollection as to the number of units and the number of beds that were part of your analysis?
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me. I did it when I did the analysis, so I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, we just stated the numbers here. I can pull them up from here if you want. No. 83 for the 68 assisted living beds, 15 memory care, 83 total. And then the independent living, which I think was 50-some bed. I don't remember the exact number.
Okay. You spoke about, I think as Ms. Wellheimer was going through the employee counts, I think you said your testimony was that the employee count would be somewhere in the mid to upper 30s. Is that accurate?
Somebody have to total the numbers we went through.
That was your sort of offhand?
Yeah, but I think
Okay.
it came out to that number. I just don't remember the exact number.
Now, is that total employees at the facility?
No, on day shift.
On day shift, okay. And of all those various employees you identified, are they all employed by the facility?
Most of them are. Some of them, for example, the occupational therapist or physical therapist may be an employee of a vendor organization that supplies the people, but they work at the building.
Right, so they would come to the building, but they're not necessarily directly employed and paid for through the facility operator.
Correct, but they're physically there.
Correct, and there are, some of those services can be contracted either by the unit owner or through the facility, not necessarily as an employee. Would you agree with
I
that?
don't understand the question.
Maintenance, for instance, that doesn't have to be an employee. That could be perhaps a third-party vendor that comes in on call.
Anytime I've seen that done, it ends up being terrible services. You're always better off hiring your own people.
But
for
it's
those jobs.
possible.
I guess.
Sure.
You don't run a bad facility.
The personal care people, the hairdresser, they're not necessarily employed by the facility. They don't have to be, correct?
They don't have to be. They're typically somebody who comes in and gets paid shift work.
Okay. The numbers that you pointed out were, you indicated the minimum required by federal and state.
Well, the minimum that required have to do with the hands-on care staff.
Okay. And
The
you
rest
have,
of it has to do with what it takes to run a building.
okay, do you have the number of the minimum required for this type of facility, the size of facility?
Yes.
What is that number?
Well, we had it on the little chart we gave you.
Okay, do you have the total number?
Total number of what?
Employees on the largest shift to meet?
Yeah, I answered that question already twice for you. All you need to do is add up the numbers that I gave a minute ago in my testimony. I have not added them up in my head. That's for you all to do.
Okay, you don't have the number then, okay.
I didn't add them up, but it's in
Okay.
that 35 to 40 range. Somebody can do the math on it if they want.
And those are all required by state and federal, all those employees that you identified?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
What's required is the hands-on care people. But you can't run the building without maintenance people. You can't run the people without laundry people. You can't run the building without cooks.
No, and I just want to understand the number that you gave me, the 33, mid-30s, upper 30s, that is not the minimum required for state and federal regulations, right?
It would fall under the safe operations side.
What
of
you
things.
believe is best practices?
No, I think the state would come in on a survey and close you down if you had no maintenance people and no laundry people and nobody in the kitchen.
So,
Hold on, Matt, it's actually because you're not using the microphone, Mr. Rifkin, I believe.
Is that
No,
better?
it's not? Okay.
we're too close? Yeah. You want me to try to turn mine off when I'm not speaking? Yeah, is it easier for me to move down here?
It may, we can.
I'm fine. I only have a few more questions,
Yep.
so I might be able to. Should be off, yeah. Better? All right, I apologize. So where we were at was the mid-30s, upper 30s number is, I was asking the question, is that the best practices number you were explaining? So I didn't
No,
want
it's not best practices. It's what you
Okay.
need to run the building at a bare minimum.
Okay, and I think you mentioned the state wouldn't allow it with less, I think is what you were starting to
No,
say.
the state wouldn't allow it if you didn't have people to clean the hallways and clean the bathrooms.
Okay, so, and the state regulations, there's not a minimum number of employees, or they're not looking at the number of employees from an independent living perspective. They don't regulate that, correct?
They're going to regulate whether you're safely taking care of the patients.
In the assisted living and memory care?
Yes.
Okay.
And independent living too. So they'll come after you.
So they're going to
regulate.
regulate both of those, okay.
They're going to shut you down if you're not providing care for
Okay,
folks.
and if they would require you to have more employees on the direct care side, correct?
I don't really understand the point of the question.
I'm just asking a question. If they don't believe you have enough employees to serve the facility, they're going to require that you have additional employees
They're
for
going to
direct
require you to
care?
at least have on the direct care side
Okay.
the number of employees that are in the statute.
Okay. Have you operated facilities that are of this general size
And bigger.
and bigger? How about just this general size? Or is it only bigger
Yeah,
facilities?
in this range,
Okay.
yeah.
Approximately how many parking spaces are at those facilities?
I wouldn't know.
You don't know the total numbers?
No, we passed whatever regs were required at the time.
From a zoning perspective or from
I don't know the answer. I bought these facilities operating and up.
so you've never developed a
I have
facility?
developed a facility, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and,
I have developed one facility. Sure.
you developed one facility?
I built one from the ground up, yes.
Okay, and the others you purchased were operational facilities?
Correct.
Okay. You testified about noise and lighting impacts on surrounding properties. Are those impacts consistent with any senior living facility?
Well, be specific.
The noise, for instance, any senior facility is going to have noise
What
associated.
senior facility are you talking about?
Anyone, just general, in general.
I can't answer a question that broad. If you give me the type of facility, I'll give you an answer.
Assisted living, memory
Yes.
care.
Yes.
Independent living, is that going to have noise impacts on surrounding
Sure,
properties?
sure.
Okay. Same question with lighting. Will assisted living memory care facility have lighting impacts on adjacent
Yes.
properties? Will a independent living facility have lighting impacts on adjacent properties?
Yes.
Now, you indicated, there's testimony, did you review the floor plans that were included with the application, with the
No.
floor layouts?
No.
Do you have any information that would lead you to believe that this facility, this project, would operate in a fashion that will have a greater impact than a standardized facility of the same size?
I have no understanding of that at all.
Okay. I have no further questions of
Thanks.
the doctor.
Are there any individuals who have party status who are present this evening who wish to ask Dr. Rivkin questions?
I would like to ask Dr. Rivkin a few questions, if I
Sure.
may. My name is Kathy Driscoll. I live on Woodland Road, and I am a party in interest. Dr. Rivkin, you were going through the people, the type of staffing required for these
Yep.
units. You were not asked about landscaping. Who would do the landscaping work around these facilities? The property is 5+ acres.
Yeah. You would either do one of two things. Either you'd hire a full-time employee to do that, or you'd hire a vendor to come in and do that. But there'd be somebody on your property, either full-time or at least part-time on day shift, typically.
And that's in addition to the numbers you went through?
Yes.
Okay.
We hadn't even thought about that.
Okay. I was keeping track of the numbers as
Oh,
you
good. So glad somebody
testified,
was.
and I added them up, and what I did, I took the lesser number you referenced. So if you say
Good.
2 to 3 people, I
Yeah.
took the 2. And the number I got, without including landscaping, was 40 people on that day shift. Does that
doesn't-
sound about right?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That sounds about right.
Okay. Now, you mentioned, you were asked a question about outside vendors, and referencing as to, they're not employed by the facility, they're outside vendors. Regardless, the services these vendors, outside vendors, provide to these residents are required, whether or not it is an outside vendor, or whether or not it is an employee. Is that correct?
Some are and some aren't. You could argue that the hairdresser is not required, but if you want to have a competitive project, you're going to have one.
All right. So when you gave, when you listed the services,
Yeah.
the amenities, let's say, for example, a hairdressing salon, that is something that, in your experience, is required for marketability. and-
Absolutely.
And is required because this is what residents expect and hope to find.
100%. I would never build one without it because I couldn't fill my beds.
Okay. You also referenced that typically it's an outside vendor that may come in to provide occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech pathology, podiatry. These were not numbers included in the 40 that I added up. So these are additional
That's
people
correct.
visiting the facility.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Please come forward and identify yourself, and you indicate whether or not you have party status.
My name is Bruce Bach. I have party status. Sorry, I get feedback here. I'm deaf. Dr. Ritter, you mentioned that you were a medical director at Sunrise. You mentioned that Sunrise segregates their patients based into these memory care units and assisted living. Is that a standard segregation, or do you see different models which could be more applicable or less applicable to the applicants?
It's a pretty common model. My experience with Sunrise was a while back, so they may have changed some things. But it is a pretty common model to have regular assisted living beds and have a memory unit.
And if I may ask, you mentioned the fact that individuals in this combined facility might have difficulty getting to and from doctor's appointments or diagnostic procedures.
It's a huge problem that feeds into bad care. If they can't get access because they don't have anybody to take them, they don't have transportation, it really helps to have a physician come out to the building.
And if I understand correctly, also reflecting on the experience of taking care of my aged mother, that sometimes procedures are performed in the facility, such as ultrasounds and the like. Has that been your experience?
There are mobile radiology companies that can come out and do an X-ray. They can do a simple ultrasound, but they're not going to do anything. They'll do minor podiatry procedures will get done.
Sure.
But nothing that's anesthesia related.
No, I wasn't implying that. My thought was more, they would need specialized parking to unload medical equipment for diagnostic purposes?
Well, they're probably just going to park and obstruct everybody, but yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. I don't have a further question.
Is there anyone else present this evening who has party status who wishes to ask Dr. Rifkin any questions? Seeing no hands, Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
There.
have redirect, but I will wait. I won't jump in
Don't
front of
sit
Mr.
down, please.
Heleniak again, because
I do not have any questions for Dr.
Do you have any
Rifkin. Thank you.
redirect?
didn't want us to ignore Mr. Heleniak twice, so.
That's right.
Dr. Rifkin, you were asked a number of questions on cross-examination by Mr. McHugh regarding whether these would be staff members provided by the operator of the facility or services that are outsourced, regardless of who's paying the person. Are the total number of staff members, as Ms. Driscoll found them, as at 40 or 41 if we include landscaping, is that the number of people that have to be present during the day shift for best practices in accordance with the statutes and best practice for operational and marketing?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Mr. McHugh, any recross?
No.
Does anyone else have any follow-up to Ms. Wellheimer's question? Mr. Heleniak, you don't?
Nothing from the township.
Dr. Rifkin, you're excused.
Yeah.
It's 7:54. We're going to take a 10-minute break, and we're going to get started again at 8:05. It's 8:07. If we can get started again. Ms. Wellheimer, do you have another witness?
I do, thank you. I call Dr. Susan Packer to the stand. And Susan, I'm just going to take your papers. But I have copies for you, Mr. McHugh, when we need them. She just has some extra little marks on hers. Okay. Okay. And Mr. Clark, as the hearing officer, I would just ask, as a point of preference, Dr. Packer is going to be giving fact testimony, and I'm calling her as a witness for that in that capacity. She also has party status. I would like to ask that when it comes time for party status people to give their opinion, she also be allowed to do that, even though she's being called as a fact witness right now.
I don't think we're going to permit that. But let's get through this witness first.
Well, then should I ask her to give an opinion at the end of this testimony regarding her party status position, separate from?
If she's a fact witness, and you're saying that then, what do you want her to do? Make public comment, make a closing?
No, she will also have public comment, which is completely separate from the testimony she's providing. Party status comment.
Is she being called as a party or as a witness?
She's
right
being
now?
called as a witness right
Okay.
now.
So if she's being called as a witness right now, there will be an opportunity for her at a later time to either present testimony on her own.
Perfect.
Or to make public comment, but not do both.
Understood. I just wanted to make sure we weren't prohibiting
Yep.
her from
Yep.
giving her
No,
personal
because
comments.
she's not being called as a party right now. She's being called as a witness. Right.
Okay.
Can I just, I don't think I heard, your last name's Packer, P-A-C-K-E-R?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Do I sit back? What's the best thing to do?
Can we try to only turn the microphone on for speaking? And that's probably good. I know it's going to be a bit of a challenge, but it's just, it's these two.
Or I can speak loudly and not use the microphone if we prefer. Oh, well, then we won't do that.
Or we could just maybe get a better system, but, what am I? I'm just the
I'll leave that
attorney.
up to the township
Yeah.
manager on that one, if I may proceed.
Yes.
Dr. Packer, could you live on Rydal Road here in Rydal, is that correct?
I do,
Okay. And you are a physician?
yes.
Okay. What type of physician are you?
So I'm a board-certified family doctor.
Okay. Is that the same thing as an internal medicine physician, as we heard Dr. Rifkin testify?
So we both went through 4 years of medical school, and he went through 3 years of a residency in internal medicine, and I went through a family practice residency for 3 years.
Okay. Do you also similarly provide primary care medicine as a general practitioner for individuals?
So
Or if you can differentiate, let me withdraw that. What type of medicine do you provide in practice, and what areas of practice do you cover?
So family doctors will take care of children who are just born up until the oldest of folks, which I thoroughly enjoyed doing for about 20 years in solo practice in Glenside after my residency at Abington. So I stayed in the neighborhood. And now I'm a little bit older, so I am no longer in solo practice. I am board certified, and I'm still doing some part-time work for Jefferson in medicine at this time.
Okay. So let me just go, do you agree with Dr. Rifkin's assessment that the majority of senior citizens obtain their primary care from a family doctor, what we as lay people might know as our primary care physicians or general practitioners?
So I think that most older patients will receive their care from their primary doctors, their family doctors, their internists, and now there's a class of doctors, the geriatricians.
Okay. And that's a new classification, is that correct? Relatively new.
We've all been taking care of people, aged folks, but they did develop a residency, a fellowship in geriatrics. So there are some who are trained in geriatrics as well.
So while I'm not going to be asking you to be qualified as an expert today, just for some context, how long have you been practicing medicine?
So I've been practicing medicine for 45 years.
And throughout your practice, have you had the opportunity to work in any continuing care facilities as described by Dr. Rifkin?
Yes, so after my residency at Abington, I did try joining a practice up in Newtown, and it was too far, so I came home and opened up an office from scratch in Glenside. As a result of just being the new doctor in the neighborhood, I took on many jobs. I did see many patients in the nursing homes. I did go to a rehab facility at Chestnut Hill. I worked with Chuck Ewing, one of the best docs in the area, who was the main doctor at Rydal Park. So I was actually working at Rydal Park in their medical facility part-time. So a number of odd jobs, but a lot of work was done in the nursing home. And then when I continued my practice, I did see patients in the nursing home for the 25 years I was in solo practice.
And when we say nursing home, did you also have contact with assisted living and memory care facilities?
Absolutely. Back then, showing my age a little bit, we didn't really call them memory care units. They were just coming to be popular maybe in the last 30 years. But nursing homes did take care of everyone. They took care of assisted living, they took care of people who had memory issues, and they took care of people who needed skilled nursing care, which really isn't very popular now because a lot of the orthopedic procedures are done a little bit better, so there's really no reason for rehab. But rehab was a big feature for the nursing homes 25 years ago.
Now, in addition to being called to give fact testimony today, you also have party status as it relates to this application. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Dr. Packer, were you familiar with Dr. Gary Lambsback?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you a couple of
Yes.
questions.
Yes.
Just let me go through the questions, then I'll
Yes.
give you a chance. And Dr. Lambsback was also a primary care physician, is that correct?
He was an internist at Holy Redeemer.
Okay. One of your neighbors who lived on Lewis Lane.
Lived right around the corner.
Okay. Also had party status.
I don't know that for sure,
Okay.
but yeah.
And you don't. And in addition to being an internist, based on your familiarity with him, are you familiar with the fact that he had a significant portion of his practice was an aging senior care population?
Yes.
Okay. And are you familiar with the fact that Dr. Lambsback visited his patients in these continuing care facilities in the area? If you don't know, you don't know.
I don't know for sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So at the time the application was filed for 1209 Rydal Road, Dr. Lamsbach prepared a list of facilities that he personally visited and the availability of the open beds and staffing at each of those facilities. Did he share that with you?
He did.
Okay. I'm going to mark this as, I think we're on Weilheimer 6 right now. Excuse me 1 second. 1, 2. I think I did it again, but let me make sure I might have it. Oh, here we go. And I do want to ask if you don't mind. Is this this is Weilheimer 5. Is this the list of material that Dr. Lamsbach put together in preparation for testimony in this matter?
Yes.
Okay. And Dr. Lamsbach was ready to testify as a fact witness regarding the available spaces, the available beds and staffing needs at local facilities as this application started. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. We had a hearing in November of 2023. We then had another hearing scheduled at the beginning of 2024. At that time, the applicant requested a continuance, and we had almost about a 2-year delay before we reconvened. What happened to Dr. Lamsbach during that period of time?
Sadly, he passed away.
So after Dr. Lamsbach passed away, did you take this research that I provided to you at Weilheimer 5 and follow up on it for current applicability?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
Before.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Not used to
Testifying
being
is
a
different than when we're
witness.
talking over the fence, so.
Not used to being a witness.
Okay. So at the time Dr. Lamsbach conducted his research, and the document I've given you, which is Weilheimer 5, there are 18 facilities listed here, and I count 11 of them are facilities that are similar to the proposed applicant. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Out of the facilities on this list, and I can have you go through them, but I think we can all read, did you follow up on each of the facilities on this list to determine the current available beds, if there are any current beds available at these facilities in independent living, assisted living, and/or memory care?
I tried.
Okay, we'll get to that. So you tried. Separate and apart from this list, did you do any research into any additional facilities that are within a 5-mile radius of the proposed facility at 1209 Rydal Road?
Right. It piqued my curiosity exactly how many facilities were within 5 miles of our zip code. And I went, that's why my computer open, I went to the Pennsylvania Department of Health webpage, and you just plug it in, how many nursing homes, and within 5 miles of the zip code, and it will tell you all of them. And there are
How many?
31.
Okay. And when you say nursing homes, when you talk about nursing homes, this application is different than a skilled nursing facility. This application is, as you know, independent, assisted, and memory care. How many of those provide assisted living or memory care out of the ones that you designate within a 5-mile radius?
I do not know exactly that number because oftentimes to survive, nursing homes will pivot and identify certain beds for certain issues. So some of them might be skilled, but if they don't feel they're skilled, they might try to fill them as assisted living. So I don't know if I can give you that exact number.
Okay. In addition to the 11 facilities that are 11 facilities on Dr. Lamsbach's list that are comparable to the proposed facility here, in the area, and I want you to let me know if you're familiar with these additional facilities within 5 miles that provide assisted living, independent living, and memory care. the Hearth at Drexel, Artman, the Hill at Whitemarsh, and Springhouse Estates. Are you also familiar with those facilities?
I'm familiar with 3 of them.
Okay, which one are you not familiar with?
I'm familiar with Artman, I'm familiar with the Hill, and I believe the last one that you mentioned.
Springhouse Estates?
Springhouse
Okay,
Estates.
so not the Hearth at Drexel.
No.
So that brings us to 14 facilities that you are familiar with between Dr. Lamsbach's research and the ones I just listed that are comparable to the proposed facility within 5 miles. Did you conduct research to supplement the research Dr. Lamsbach did in, and this is just a yes or no question, to supplement the research Dr. Lamsbach did in 2023 to 2024 to determine available beds?
I did try, yes.
Okay. Was there any facility that you contacted on Dr. Lamsbach's list or any other research that you did that does not have available assisted living beds?
All of them had assisted living beds available.
Okay. Was there any memory care facility that you contacted that does not have available beds?
At the time that I approached a couple of them, they all said that they had beds available.
Okay. How about independent living? From the research that you did, are there any independent living facilities that do not have available beds right now?
To the best of my knowledge, Rydal Park has a waiting list for independent living.
Okay. How about for assisted living, to the best of your knowledge?
I do not know that answer.
Okay. Based on your experience and training as a primary care physician and the research you conducted of the continuing care facilities within 5 miles of 1209 Rydal Road, is there a present need for the beds as proposed at this facility?
Objection. I don't think a fact witness can testify to that. I think it's a conclusion and opinion.
What would be the basis of her knowledge of need?
From contacting facilities, and there are open beds at each one of them, therefore there is no demonstrated need in this community. The argument from the applicant is this is something that the township identified as a need.
I'm going to overrule the objection. You can certainly cross-examine her on the depth of her knowledge of, since somebody said they had an opening, whether that means this facility isn't needed. So she can answer the question.
Okay. So is there a current need for the proposed facility in this area?
Well, the first thing that surprised me was, based on the information from the state's Department of Health, was that in those 31 facilities that are within a 5-mile radius of 19046, there are over 4,000 beds available, and they are not all filled. In fact, they are not filled. In fact, I do know that St. Joseph's Manor, for example, is almost only half full, and it's been that way since COVID. So there are a number of beds that are available in our 5-mile radius, and it's my belief that from what I researched that they are definitely not all filled.
Okay. If I can have one moment. Dr. Packer, when was the time frame in which you conducted your research into these facilities?
Within the last 3 to 4 months. I actually personally went to Sunrise of Abington because to me that was right next door, and spoke with one of the folks there, and she informed me of all the regs that they have to follow to ensure proper patient care, that the state, when they do their inspections, it's the information that they need to produce. And I also asked her about their occupancy and whether they thought that there was need in the community for more beds.
Okay. And just to reiterate, when you went there, in addition to the calls that you made, was there available bed space on every level of need, every level of availability at Sunrise?
There was.
Okay. And Sunrise is independent living, assisted living, and memory care, and they are half a mile from here?
Literally right up the street.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Good evening, Dr. Packer. Just so I understand, Wellheimer 5, that's a document that was given to you by Dr. Lambsback, is that
He
correct?
prepared it, yes.
Okay, are these your circles on there, or were those, they're circles, some of the things are circled?
No, they're not my circles.
That's from Dr. Lambsback. Okay.
These are my scribbles on
Okay. And there's, from what I can tell, it looks like there's 18 facilities identified, is that correct?
At the time that he put together this list, he determined 18
Okay.
facilities.
And then you did outreach to all 18 of those?
I did not call all 18. I did make an effort to call, I believe, almost all of them, but they were not able to give me, many of them were not able to give me information.
Okay, do you know which ones you weren't, I don't know which is easier, the ones that you were able to get information from, or the ones that you were not able to get information from?
So some of the information I obtained from online. On the state, they do have a link, and they will tell you how many beds are available.
Okay,
First of all, Powerback Rehab is now Willow Grove Post-Acute.
okay,
In fact, many of the places that I went to, such as Roslyn Nursing Home, is now Brookside. Many of them have changed their names. I did speak with Sunrise. I did visit St. Joseph's Manor. Rydal Park I spoke with. The old homestead, which is Garden Spring Center. And I don't remember about Edge Hill.
so if I'm just counting, that's
I reached out to over half of them, but
4 or
they-
5 you actually spoke with that you're sure of?
that spoke with me.
Spoke with you, okay, that you
Yes.
had somebody,
I did call almost all of them, and these were the ones that I was able to speak with.
okay. And those were the 5 that you actually spoke to somebody that was willing to give you information?
Well, they didn't give me a lot of information, but they did give me some.
And do you know who you were speaking with?
So when I went to visit Sunrise of Abington, I spoke with one of their directors.
Directors, how about the other
I don't know who they
locations?
put on the phone.
Okay, you don't know, you didn't ask for their title,
They could have been a director of nursing, I'm not sure.
you didn't ask,
I didn't keep track of it.
you didn't
no.
keep track, okay. Did you ask the same questions to each of the, I mean, did you have a script?
I basically asked them what their occupancy rate was at this time in their assisted care and in their memory care.
Okay, and how about independent living?
So some of the places, I was not that interested in independent living. I was
Okay.
more interested in the assisted and the memory care.
Okay, did you ask each of them about their perception of need in the community?
No,
Okay.
no. It didn't seem like that was appropriate for me to do.
Okay. I don't believe I have any further questions.
Is there anyone present this evening who has party status who wishes to ask Dr. Packer any questions? Seeing no hands, Mr. Lenniak, do you have any questions about that?
The township has no questions.
Ms. Wellheimer, you're going to redirect Dr. Packer.
Thank you for your time.
Ms. Wellheimer, do you have any further witnesses?
I do not, but I thought Dr. Rifkin was going to take us most of the night, so.
Is there anyone else who has party status who wishes to present evidence this evening? Not just get up and making a speech, but have a witness to call.
Sir, what counts as evidence?
Not just getting up and talking, but having a witness who you are going to call and ask questions of.
You must have a witness that you're going to call, not provide primary evidence with documentation.
Does anyone who has party status have any witnesses they have present with them this evening who they wish to call? Okay. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We're back. Sure.
So we have a number of people here, some on Zoom, who I know we're not going to have them testify on Zoom unless they have real issues. It wasn't on, sorry. There are a number of people with party status that have an interest in providing testimony separate and apart from public comment. When they are going forward, I just want to clarify, each person who has party status is able to come up and present their views on the application. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. What we were trying to do to consolidate the testimony and make it more efficient was to have someone as a designated representative from a particular street, have the other people present here when they're providing that. Is there any prohibition to that?
So anyone who gets up and provides testimony will be subject to cross-examination by Mr. McHugh, by Mr. Heleniak, and by anybody else who has party status. If the intent is for one person to get up and then say, here are 7 other people and name their names, and they'll all raise their hand and say, we agree with what was just said, Mr. McHugh still reserves the right to cross-examine all of them as well. Okay. If he wishes to waive that right, he can. But I don't have the need as the hearing officer to hear 8 people who live in the same block say the exact same thing. So okay. I'm fine with that, but Mr. McHugh reserves the right to cross-examine each one of them individually.
Understood. Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
So this is a general overview of how we're going to proceed over the next, I guess we're saying about 2 months now. And I want, Ms. Wellheimer just touched on something that I think we want to make sure this is a clarification. Anyone who has party status tonight or the next hearing, which will be on July 14th in this room at 6:30, anyone who has party status is permitted to come forward and present testimony. That means you can get up and you can make a statement. I will put certain limitations on it if I believe that it is just becoming repetitive or irrelevant. There's not going to be a clock running, but if you're getting up and just repeating the same things over and over again, or if it's not relevant, we'll put some limitations on that. You will be subject to cross-examination by Mr. McHugh, by Mr. Heleniak, and by anyone else who has party status. Once we get through everyone who has party status who wishes to present testimony, we then will be allowing the general public to provide public comment. And Mr. McHugh does not get a chance to cross-examine the members of the public who are making public comment. If you have party status, you cannot make public comment. You must make testimony and be subject to cross-examination by Mr. McHugh. Once we are done with all of the testimony and public comment, and if we can get that all done on the 14th, we will then ask for anyone who is interested to submit memorandum of law, findings of fact, and conclusions of law by the close of business on August 7th, 2026. And we will, in advance, provide you with the email address of where you can send that information. Close of business means 5 p.m. So anything that comes in at 5:05 will be disregarded.
Sir, for us...
Now, if you could just wait a minute, then once we have all of that on August 7th, I will provide my recommendation to the Board of Supervisors by the end of August, early September, and then the Board of Supervisors will consider this application at their publicly advertised regular meeting of the second meeting in September. And forgive me, I don't have that exact date just yet, but it will be the 24th? September 24th is when it will be considered by the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Bach, you have a question?
Yes, sir. Just you use some term of art words that I have no idea what you're saying, sir.
Okay.
So what is this memorandum of law? Is that got to be prepared by a lawyer?
Okay.
What is that?
If anyone has a written submission that they would like to make, making sure that I am aware of certain testimony or certain facts or a certain issue of law, you are permitted to submit that. Even if you're not a lawyer. Doesn't need to be prepared by a lawyer if there is something that you believe that I need to be aware of. It should, for the most part, conform to the testimony that we've heard over the last several years. It should not necessarily contain a lot of opinions and thoughts and things along those lines. It should mostly focus on the testimony. Findings of fact and conclusions of law are when the parties will, if Mr. McHugh chooses to do so, if some of the lawyers who are parties choose to do so, they will be submitting defined facts that we have heard during these hearings, and then they will also be providing what they are saying is the law, and it's just a different format. I would think that most of the lay people who want to submit something in writing will just be submitting a memorandum, a letter brief, or something along those lines. Okay. Yes?
Yes, Mr. Clark, is there a way for people to access the notes of testimony? We have 60-some parties in interest, and I can't imagine those that may want to submit a writing stating their thoughts on findings of fact and conclusions.
The township is not permitted to make copies of the notes of testimony. They must be obtained through the court reporter. And after we adjourn this evening, I will let Mark explain to some of you how you would go about doing that.
Okay, because it's very difficult without the notes of testimony and exhibits.
I understand, but it's his work product, so
Understood. And,
maybe he'll cut you a deal.
and another question in terms of. Sorry, could you come to the mic? Oh, I'm sorry. In terms of procedure.
You might need to turn it on. I don't know. I think it's on.
Is it on? Is it on?
The green light is on.
The red light.
Light is on.
Yeah, that one's red. The other one.
Okay, that's where you threw it. That's red. Will there be closing remarks?
There will not be.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Are there any other questions about the procedure? Yes.
So I would like to make a statement on behalf of the Rydal Meadowbrook Civic Association during general public comment, but I'm also a party of interest.
Do they have party status in this?
They do not, which is
Okay.
why I'm asking.
No, then you will not be permitted to make it on behalf of somebody who doesn't have party status.
During general public comment? I'm saying instead of me making it as a party during the party
Oh, I
status
see
portion, I
what
would like
you're
to make
asking.
it during the public comment portion.
Well,
And I just want to make sure I handle that correctly.
The Rydal Meadowbrook Civic Association does have party status. At the outset of the hearing, they were represented by Mr. Tom Stone.
Okay. And he's also a party on his own.
right,
Okay, that's fine. Then we'll make it during party status comment.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No. So, yep. Any other questions? Okay. It's 8:45. Does anyone who has party status wish to present testimony?
Can we, you want to do it, if you're ready today, great.
Yeah, we don't need everyone to come up. Okay.
Okay. My name is Julianne, Julianne Peterson, Petersen. Sen. I do. Thank you. Good evening. First, I would like to thank the Board of Commissioners, hearing officer, and township staff for giving us this opportunity to share our concerns regarding the proposed facility at 1209 Rydal Road. As I said, my name is Julianne Peterson. I'm here tonight with my husband, Jeffrey Martin. We live at 1437 Durrell Road, which is directly behind the estate house on the 1209 property. Tonight, we stand or sit together with our neighbors. Aina Renwick of 1429 Durrell Road. Her husband Jamal could not be here this evening. Jerry and Rich Irwine of 1421 Durrell Road. We all have party status, and I'm not sure how this works, but 4 of our neighbors who could not be here gave us written permission to include their names. They do. Would you like me to read their names?
Please do.
Absolutely. First is Eric Warren, W-E-R-E-N, and Marla Cochran, C-O-C-H-R-A-N, of 1443 Durrell Road. Olena, O-L-E-N-A, Vidnich, V-I-D-N-I-C-H, and Yuri, Y-U-R-I, have trouble with his name all the time, Lysishuk. I'll spell it for you, L-Y-A-S-H-C-H-U-K, and they are at 1415 Durrell Road. Again, they could not join us this evening. But we are here tonight to voice our strong opposition to
I'm just gonna stop you for a second.
Yes, sir.
I just want to make it clear that if you're in the room tonight and you've just been identified by Ms. Peterson, you are not going to be able to make individual testimony. Does everyone who she's just identified understand that? Okay.
We did
Go
this
ahead.
collectively since
Yep.
we all live on
Go
Durrell
right ahead. Yep.
in an effort not to be repetitive. So we are here tonight to voice our strong opposition to the conditional use application for the proposed life care facility and assisted living facility at 1209 Rydal Road. For us, this is not simply a zoning matter. It is about our homes, our families, and the neighborhood we have worked hard to build and preserve. It is about whether the character of a quiet, residential community can be fundamentally altered by a project that does not belong in this location. The applicant has the burden of demonstrating that this proposal satisfies the requirements of Section 1806G of the Abington Township zoning ordinance. Based on the evidence presented, we believe they have failed to do so. Specifically, we would like to highlight 4 reasons this application does not meet the standards for approval. First, failure to meet community, character, and neighborhood compatibility, 1806G3. This ordinance requires that when conditional use is adjacent to residential properties, the scale and nature of the proposed use must relate to and complement the surrounding neighborhood. Our neighborhood is not merely a collection of houses on a map. It is where our children have learned to ride their bicycles. It is where neighbors stop to talk while walking their dogs, and is where families gather in their backyards on summer evenings and where we know one another. When we chose to make our home on Durrell Road in August of 2002, we invested not only our savings, but our future in this community. We chose Rydal because of its tree-lined streets, its spacious lots, natural beauty, and peaceful residential character. The proposed facility is not a natural extension of that character. It is a massive institutional complex that would loom over nearby homes and dominate the landscape. Rather than complementing the surrounding neighborhood, it would fundamentally and negatively transform it. No amount of landscaping, which takes years to mature, or architectural language can disguise the reality that this project is entirely different in scale, intensity, and function from the residential community that surrounds it. Second, failure to ensure suitability and minimize nuisance. This is from 1806G2 and 1806G4. The ordinance requires that a conditional use be suitable for its location and not create excessive nuisances, hazards, or adverse impacts on neighboring properties. The steep slopes, mature trees, and dense vegetation on this property are critical natural buffers that protect the 1209 property from erosion and the homes on Durrell Road from flooding. The applicants, however, have neglected to maintain this property for the past years that they have owned it. Those of us living downhill understand the importance of these buffers because we live with the consequences of this neglect. We have experienced falling trees, power outages, downed power lines which run through the back of our property.
I'm going to object to the relevance of property maintenance on the conditional use application.
Ms. Peterson, you have to focus on the application itself, the testimony, and whether or not the applicant has met its burden. Whether or not there are property maintenance issues is not relevant and will not be considered in my decision.
Fair enough. I will jump to my next paragraph, that we are now being asked to trust that the same property will be developed responsibly by people who have let the yards deteriorate. And, moving on, that they will somehow manage this responsibly as a 24-hour institutional facility in a residential neighborhood. The proposed development would require significant disturbance of the site, removal of vegetation, altering of existing extremely steep terrain. These changes raise serious concerns about stormwater runoff, flooding, erosion, lighting impact, noise, and overall environmental disruption. In addition, the site plan places service functions, including the deliveries, which the doctor mentioned this evening, loading operations, trash collection, directly adjacent to the backyards of our homes. Imagine sitting with us in our backyard when the commercial trash operations and delivery trucks are operating just beyond our fence line. Imagine trying for us to enjoy the peace of our homes while these daily activities of a large institutional facility occur only yards away. This is not going to be a temporary inconvenience. It would be a permanent nuisance that neighboring residents would be forced to endure every day. Our third point, failure to demonstrate traffic and safety compliance in 1806 G5. The ordinance requires that the surrounding transportation network be capable of safely accommodating the traffic generated by the proposed use. Anyone who lives in the area knows that the intersections of Woodland Road, Valley Road, Durrell Road present significant safety concerns. And these concerns are not theoretical. We have witnessed accidents, and our children's school bus stops have been relocated because of the traffic safety issues in these at those intersections. Yet this applicant asks the board to accept projections that fail to account for real-world conditions that we experience every day. As we heard this evening, even greater than was presented before, the facility would generate employee traffic, visitor traffic, service vehicles, transportation for residents, deliveries, medical transport vehicles, ambulances, and other institutional traffic throughout the day and night. The applicant's analysis may rely on calculations and averages, but it's our families and neighbors that live with the reality. We already know how difficult it is to navigate these roads during peak hours. We know how often drivers use neighborhood streets, including Durrell Road, as cut-through routes. We know where visibility is limited and where the children wait for school buses. The addition of substantial institutional traffic to our residential streets would create risks that are neither reasonable nor necessary. Finally, number 4, direct detriment to neighbors and property values, which comes from 1806 B3. Finally, this proposal would cause direct and substantial harm to neighboring residents. As I mentioned tonight, I'm not only speaking for myself, but I am speaking for the families that I introduced earlier. We have lived on this road and we have invested our lives in this neighborhood. Our homes represent decades of hard work, sacrifice, and an enormous financial commitment. For many families, their home is their largest investment and their primary source of financial security. Local real estate professionals have expressed concerns that a facility of this size and intensity would negatively impact nearby property values by fundamentally altering the character and desirability of the surrounding neighborhood, particularly for our properties located directly adjacent to the proposed site. For many of us that live near the proposed institutional complex, any decline in property values would constitute a significant and lasting economic harm to our families. The impact, however, extends beyond property values. It would diminish the qualities that make this neighborhood desirable in the first place: peace, privacy, safety, and its residential character. Beyond dollars and cents, it's where our lives happen. It's where we celebrate birthdays, raise children, and care for aging parents, and gather with family, friends, and neighbors. What is being proposed is not simply another house or building. It is a permanent change to the character of our community and the quality of life we currently enjoy. If approved, the consequences will be borne by us, not by the applicant. In conclusion, the applicant has failed to demonstrate that this proposal satisfies the standards required for conditional use approval. The evidence does not establish that the use is compatible with the neighborhood, that it will avoid creating nuisances and safety concerns, or that it will protect the interests of the surrounding community. We respectfully ask the Board of Commissioners to uphold the intent of the Abington Township zoning ordinance and deny this conditional use application. We ask that you please protect the neighborhood that generations of families have worked so hard to create and to preserve. We thank you for your time, for your service to our community, and for your consideration in this matter.
Thank you. Mr. McHugh, do you have any questions of Ms. Peterson?
Just one question.
Sure.
Ms. Peterson, is it your position and the position of your Doral Road neighbors that you're opposed to any senior living facility on this property?
Correct.
And anyone that would be within the R1 district?
I beg your pardon?
And any senior living facility that would be in the R1 district?
I don't think we're being asked to consider another senior living facility. I think we're only being asked to consider this one, so I'm only comfortable saying we are opposed to this senior living facility.
Answer his question, please.
I have no further questions.
That's not a matter of what you're comfortable with. You've been asked a question, you need to answer it.
Can you please repeat the question so I can answer it properly?
The question was, are you and your Doral Road neighbors opposed to any senior living facility within the R1 district?
Yes, it does not meet the requirements of an R1 zoning, especially after what has been changed in the zoning laws since the applicant has presented his program for the township.
I have no further questions.
Is there anyone else with party status this evening who?
Mine is much shorter and not as formal, but my name is Gail Daltrey, and I live...
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry, yes. There. I do. It's Gail, G-A-I-L, Daltrey, D-A-L-T-R-Y.
Your address, please?
It's 1416 Durrell Road. I live the outstander on the other side of the road.
Okay.
I too would like to thank everyone for giving us this opportunity. 1416 is my home. It was purchased as a generational home for the Daltrey-Drew family. We've owned it for 22 years, and it has been a place where we have raised and cared for our family through life changes. My mother, my 84-year-old mother, still lives here with me, and she's hoping to spend her later years in the peaceful environment she has come to love. Like so many of my neighbors, we chose Rydal for its peaceful tree-lined streets, natural beauty, and strong sense of community, the kind of place where we could raise our families and put down deep roots. My home sits on the far side of Durrell, near the bottom of the hill, with a clear view of 1209 Rydal Road property. I will see the daily reality of the proposal in a way that weighs heavily on me. Life today is a wooded buffer and quiet residential setting where we can still enjoy safe, peaceful days and evenings. If this application is approved, we face years of construction disruption, beginning soon with a noisy, active construction site prominently in view, heavy truck traffic on our residential roads, dust erosion on steep slopes, and increased stormwater runoff making our flooding problems even worse. My property abuts up against a flood zone. I fear the additional runoff will push us fully into one, adding the need for FEMA flood insurance, which will cost roughly about $2,000 a year. I've been through that before in Bader, and it's not fun. It's detrimental. Once built, the constant activity of a 120-room institutional facility, staff shifts, deliveries, shuttles, ambulances, and bright light would bring ongoing disruption. Wildlife displaced from the property would also be pushed on our neighborhood, into our neighborhood streets and backyards, creating new safety hazards. The peaceful setting we have cherished for decades would be permanently altered. If the facility struggles, as has happened with previous senior care projects tied to the applicant and their silent partner, we would be left with a large vacant building looming over our neighborhood or pressure to convert it to apartments or even denser housing later. In the end, this proposal would be detrimental to my property and would negatively affect the character of our neighborhood. Two key conditional use standards the applicant has not met. Like my neighbors, I respectfully ask the Board of Commissioners to deny this application and protect the peaceful community we have all worked so hard to preserve for more than 2 decades. Thank you.
Ms. Daltrey, are you speaking on behalf of anyone or just on yourself?
Only my mother, Marilyn Daltrey.
Okay. And does your mother have party status?
She does.
Okay. Mr. McHugh, do you have any questions for Ms. Daltrey?
I have no questions for Ms. Daltrey.
And I neglected to ask this with Ms. Peterson. Does anyone who has party status have any questions for Ms. Daltrey? Seeing no hands, Mr. Heleniak, do you have any questions for Ms. Daltrey?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who's present? Okay. And one very brief housekeeping thing before we get to the next thing. Commissioner Spiegelman has threatened to fire me if I do not clarify that they are a Board of Commissioners and not a Board of Supervisors, as I mistakenly said before. Many apologies, Commissioner Spiegelman. Yes. Please proceed.
I do. Barnett Satinsky, B-A-R-N-E-T-T, S-A-T-I-N-S-K-Y. I appreciate the
Mr. Satinsky, can you please give us your address?
Sure. 1301 School Lane, Rydal. I am a party participant.
Please proceed.
I appreciate the opportunity to address this hearing officer and the board. As I stated, I am a party participant. I've lived at 1301 School Lane with my wife since 1979. I speak on my own behalf, but I am joined in my comments by Rosemary Patricelli, Patricelli, also a party participant who resides at 1271 School Lane, but who is out of town this evening. I believe she is watching on Zoom. The general requirements for conditional use mandate that additional criteria be considered by the Board of Commissioners when acting upon a conditional use application. Among those criteria are several that I will speak to. I quote or paraphrase from portions of the 1209 Rydal Road application. Number 2 of these additional requirements is the suitability of the proposed use for the property, including issues such as traffic and vehicular and pedestrian circulation. Number 3 is community character, the impact of the proposed use on the surrounding community. Number 5 is traffic impact. The existing road system must be able to accommodate the peak traffic generated by the proposed use in a safe and efficient manner. Existing residential areas shall not be impacted by significant volumes of traffic from the proposed facility. First, I want to talk about traffic patterns in the area proximate to the proposed facility. The studies offered by the applicant are limited to isolated spots in a particular 3-day interval. Assuming for the sake of argument the validity of those numerical readings, I believe that view is myopic. Traffic, particularly from Penn State, heading in a southerly direction towards Valley Road, has 2 principal paths. One is on Cloverly, one is on Woodland. The intersections at Valley Road often become congested, especially when classes let out each hour or half hour at Penn State, as well as at the end of the workday for staff and faculty. Parking lots are spread around the campus, so students may be parking on one side of campus and trying to get to the other side of the campus to exit. Drivers often traverse School Lane and Rydal Road to get to their preferred route out of the area. Next, I want to talk about the unique intersections. Our section of Rydal is blessed with numerous skewed intersections. Rather than 90-degree perpendicular intersections, many of our roads are X-junctions. These require drivers to strain their necks and turn their heads further than in a typical 4-legged intersection to see oncoming traffic. These are found to greater or lesser degrees at School Lane and Woodland Road, Woodland and Valley Roads, Rydal Road and Cloverly Lane, and Cloverly Lane, Valley Road, and Old Valley Road. These X-junctions are particularly difficult to navigate and negatively impact traffic flow. Some drivers are ultra-cautious, creating a lengthy backup. Some drivers are very aggressive, creating hazardous conditions for cross-traffic and pedestrians. I want to turn to compliance with traffic laws. Each Penn State semester, various law enforcement techniques are used to enforce traffic codes. Electronic speed signs are used from time to time by either Penn State or the township to remind drivers of the posted speed limits. Abington police vehicles are particularly visible during the first 2 weeks of a semester and attempt to discourage violators from disobeying the laws of the road. Ironically, one of the spots at which Abington police often perform this function is on Rydal Road near Cloverly, directly across from the driveway entrance to 1209 Rydal Road. This is one of the X intersections, and drivers often speed there or come to rolling stops rather than full stops. Cars in the area often ignore posted speed limits, sometimes by as much as 10 to 20 miles per hour, and occasionally more. I witness this behavior regularly when picking up the mail, walking in or out of our house, to or from the front lawn or driveway. More specifically, We had storm damage in 2023 requiring a new roof. We live on School Lane in the middle of the block, directly across from the Sutherland Building, where many of the hearings in this matter have been conducted. For several days, I would make my morning coffee, grab a beach chair, and sit on the Penn State Hill overlooking our house, in full view of the electronic radar speed sign that was posted at that time. At least 50% of the cars exceeded the posted 25 miles an hour by 1 to 5 miles per hour. 5 or 10 in the space of an hour would exceed 30 miles per hour. A few of those 5 or 10 would exceed 40 or 50 miles per hour for a stretch. Although I did not make a complete study, this is what I observed anecdotally. Turning to the north side of Woodland Road in the direction of Old York Road and Abington Hospital, there is a driveway entrance to the Levy Building parking lot. It is clearly posted that cars may not make a left turn into that particular driveway from Woodland Road, and also may not make a U-turn at that location. Yet cars often ignore these postings and enter the parking lot, notwithstanding the posted prohibitions. Applicant put on testimony about how they intended to design the Woodland Road ingress and egress driveways with certain restrictions. Given the existing noncompliance in the immediate neighborhood, I question the efficacy of applicants' proposed restrictions. Given this factual background, I submit that the application for conditional use filed by the applicant does not meet the applicable criteria and that the application should be denied. Thank you.
Mr. McHugh, do you have any questions of Mr. Satinsky?
I don't.
Is there anyone present this evening who has party status who have questions of Mr. Satinsky? Yes, Ms. Wellheimer, you can come forward.
Which microphone should I use so I don't? You want a handheld microphone? I'm fine using this one as long as I'm not.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Satinsky, I just have a couple questions regarding your testimony regarding traffic. Just want to make sure I'm setting the stage correctly. School Lane, where you live, connects Woodland Road on one side and Cloverly on the other, is that correct?
Correct.
And the applicant's proposed entrance to their facility is at the end of Woodland Road where it intersects with Valley Road, is that correct?
Correct.
Parallel to your street, School Lane, what is the street immediately behind you going away from Penn State? I think that's east of Penn State.
Rydal Road.
Okay. How long ago did you move into the community?
In 1979, I haven't done the calculation recently.
Okay. So, since 1979, have you had the opportunity to have the experience of traffic backing up on either Woodland or Cloverly?
Frequently.
Okay. So what happens on your road and Rydal Road if there's a traffic backup on Woodland?
Most of the drivers start trying to cross over from one side to the other, Cloverly to Woodland or Woodland to Cloverly. So they're dashing through the neighborhood trying to get to the other point of entry onto Valley Road.
And what, if any, safety concerns does that raise when that occurs in the neighborhood?
It's difficult for pedestrians to walk in those areas. You have a lot of frustrated drivers, people pulling out to get onto Valley Road or cross Valley Road and to make a turn, trying to beat the Valley Road traffic. So you've got this influx of many cars hitting the intersections at roughly the same time, and it can be very chaotic in those areas.
Sir, you talked about the increased efforts on behalf of the township to address the traffic issues as a result of Penn State Abington. You mentioned the problems when we talk about left turn in that no one adheres to at the Levy Medical Center and the proposed left turn in by the applicant here. Whose responsibility, in your experience, has it been to try to address traffic safety enforcement in our neighborhood when we have these issues?
The Abington Police Department.
And is that your expectation of whose continued responsibility it would be if we have additional problems as a result of another left turn in lane that is not adhered to?
Certainly.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Mr. McHugh, anything after that?
No further questions.
Mr. Heleniak?
Nothing from the township.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Satinsky.
Thank you.
Okay, it's 9:17. Unless somebody really tells me they're going to be incredibly quick and they cannot be here on July 14th, I think we're going to stop for the evening. So does anyone want to tell me one of those two things? You're going to be really quick and, okay. So we're going to recess for the evening. The continued hearing will be on Tuesday, July 14th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. in this room. And again, we will continue at that time with residents who have party status giving testimony and then for public comment. Thank you. Yep. No, Mark, go back on the record. Everybody, if you could just hold on 1 second. Everybody, just hold on 1 second, please. If everybody can hold on 1 second. I really don't want to use this, but please, if everyone can hold on 1 second. Please. Mr. McHugh, the timeline and the dates that I've laid out, do you have any objection to that timeline?
No, we don't.
Okay, thank you. Now we're done.
Mr. Clark, you had said the 14th, what was the other day you provided?
August 7th, which will be...
That was for written closings.
That is if we need to go into, excuse me.
You said August 7th was the date for written findings of fact and conclusions of
August
law.
7th is for findings of fact, conclusions of law, and memorandum. And we will be providing at the next hearing date a email address where all of those can be sent.
Right. Is there another date after the 14th that's currently set up?
We're holding another date if we need it. Okay, if we don't finish on the 14th, which I really hope we do, then we're going to start pushing everything back, and we'll probably use that August 7th date for the continuation. We'll probably push the findings of fact and the memorandum out for about 3 weeks, and then we'll probably push out to the first meeting in October. But I'm very hopeful we're going to be done with everybody by the 14th.
Mr. Clark, if I may, just to be clear, I don't think we would use the August 7th date as a meeting date. We'll just identify, and we'll have a date in mind coming into the 14th.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So we're not meeting on a Friday.
Right.
Just to be clear.
Correct.